Hello spider fans, and welcome back to the Tarantula Cave. In this episode we're going to talk about my experience, my very first experience of the South East Arachnid Show, which happened last Sunday. So first up, let me tell you what this video is not. This video is not going to be a load of footage that I took at the South East Arachnid Show. If you want to see a load of footage of the South East Arachnid Show, then you should definitely check out the video that Mark from Mark's Tarantulas put together. I've watched the whole thing. It pretty much sums up how incredible the show was in terms of the variety of species there, the size of some of the centipedes and tarantulas, insane. And yeah, you'll get a feel for the whole show there, and I didn't see any point in me as another YouTuber just copying that. So that's not what this show is about. What this show is about is just my experience of the show. On Sunday mornings I take my son swimming, which meant that I couldn't get down to the Ashford International Hotel last Sunday really early to join the massive queue that was queuing into the foyer to get the early bargains and pick up all the good stuff really early on. But I still got to the show around 1 o'clock, which unfortunately seemed to be a bit too late to meet Mark from Mark's Tarantulas, which I was really hoping to do. I did see Daniel Oakley, Tarantula Dan, there, but he was very busy talking to other people, and I just thought I had my son with me, and actually wrangling him and trying to keep him still long enough to have a decent conversation with Daniel wasn't going to happen, so I left him to it. Pretty sure I also saw Francis Lee there divulging good information to lots of people, but again, a busy man taken up with lots of other people's time, so I didn't feel like it would be appropriate to get involved. The show itself was incredible. I've just never seen so many invertebrates in one space before. I was just completely gobsmacked. There was just so much choice and some amazing prices for some of the species available. It seemed to be more or less the Theraphosa show. I mean, like, every table that was selling tarantulas had Theraphosa on it, and some of them were huge, and the prices were, I think the cheapest slings I saw were £30 each, and the most expensive adults I saw were probably in the £300 range, but it was like Theraphosa crazy. There were loads of Goliath bird eaters. Thankfully for me, I have asthma and I have no intention of keeping a Goliath bird eater of any species because I do not need those hairs in my lungs, and that saved me having to think about that, which was great. I did have to think quite hard about the £160 mint leg centipede that was absolutely stunning, but I'm not really ready for centipedes yet, I don't think, and no one needs to spend that much money on an insect right now, so that wasn't going to happen. The only other thing I really want to talk about is Spider-Man. So there's a guy who dresses up like Spider-Man who walks around the show making all the kids' days. So I turned up with my son, and he's only 2, and he's a bit obsessed with Spider-Man at the moment. And the first thing he sees is Spider-Man, and he goes absolutely mad, like completely mind blown, and wants to high five him and give him fist bumps and just basically loiter next to him like a creepy little dwarf, which was great and absolutely lovely, and it totally made his day. But we did that right at the beginning when I just arrived at the show, which meant that for the whole 2.5 hours I was at the show, all I got from him was, "Daddy, where's Spider-Man? Where's Spider-Man, Daddy? We gotta find Spider-Man. Daddy, he's not in this room. Daddy, Daddy, he's not here, he's not here. Let's go find Spider-Man." Which meant that my time at all of the tables to look at all the stuff was really limited, because every kind of 6 minutes I had to go and try and find Spider-Man again. And then eventually he went home, but unfortunately my son wouldn't believe me that that had happened, so that was awkward. So yeah, so there's a little bit of tension, because I know that had Spider-Man not been there, then my son would have had a really good time just checking out all the bugs. But because Spider-Man was in the forefront of his mind, he just couldn't get out of that headspace, which meant, yeah, it was really hard for me to spend any time at any of the tables really looking. So I just had to kind of keep doing laps of the show, which I know was amusing quite a lot of people at the So Many Legs table, and a few of the other sellers who were just laughing at me because I was wrestling with my son the whole time. And the thing that made it worse was that every single room was roasting hot because there were so many people at the show, that the heat generated by all those people was insane. So I think I turned up at the show, I had a light jacket, a shirt and a t-shirt on, and this hat, and yeah, by the end of it, it was literally just the t-shirt and the hat. In fact, I think I took the hat off because it was so hot. So so that was probably my only complaint for the show. Like, it was absolutely amazing, brilliantly organised, but the temperature control was terrible, like absolutely sweltering, which made it quite uncomfortable, especially because I had my son strapped to me at various times. And yeah, so maybe there's a lesson about taking 2-year-olds to arachnid shows, but I like to think that, yeah, had it not been for the Spider-Man incident, I'm gonna have words with Spider-Man, it would have been great. So so yeah, anyway, it was a really good show. I obviously have some new spiders in the collection now, and I would like to show them to you. So without further ado, let's do that. First up, one of my best pickups was this massive Hysterocrates gigas Cameroon red baboon tarantula. There was a stall, I think they were called Penworth Reptiles, and the only spiders they had on their bench were Cameroon red baboons, and they just had a whole bunch of adults. And they started off the show selling them for, I think, £20 each. Yeah, they were £20 each, you can see on the lid. And then very quickly in the afternoon they dropped the price to £15, which to my mind is daylight robbery in terms of buying a Cameroon red baboon. I mean, I've seen adult females for sale for, I think, as low as £25, possibly £20. But as you know, I've got a male which I sexed out a while back, and I've been looking for a female, so I just had a look at all of the containers, checked out all the spiders, and just went for the one that had the biggest abdomen, because I know that my male, being probably adult now, has quite a small abdomen, and I just thought the bigger the abdomen, the more likely it's going to be a female. So there was a sexed female in the show on one of the stands, but she was £40, which actually is not unreasonable at all for a sexed adult tarantula. But yeah, 15 quid for this absolute stunner. I couldn't really pass it up. So yes, as you can see, this is me trying to rehouse it. She, I'm going to call her a she until she molts, and I know for sure. She was quite stubborn about getting into my bottle funnel device. So in the end, I swapped it for a cricket tub, which seemed to do the job better, because she was refusing to move. So this was an exciting moment. I slid the lid under the cricket tub, obviously to catch her in it, and in the process of doing so, I accidentally flipped the box up. So if she'd wanted to, she could have run straight out, basically, and that was my bad. But it made for a more exciting transfer. So yeah, here we go. It's me trying to give her a prod to make her move in a bit more, and then slide the lid under. She wasn't the most cooperative, I have to say, but I'd got no defence postures off her, no aggression. She just got on with it, which I thought was really lucky, given how big she is. Certainly her carapace is much bigger than my male's. There you go, there's the bit where I dropped the box. Look at that. She's absolutely gorgeous. A much browner colour than the male I have. There is a bit of a problem with H. gigas in the hobby, because no one really knows if any of the adults are all related or the same species or the similar catch location or anything, and even the ones that you've grown up from slings, they could be hybrids anyway. So basically, if I do breed this female to my male, they're going to be sold as hobby form. My main interest in it really is that this species is really well known to do quite well communally for a long time. So even if I breed them and I have hundreds of slings, then it'll be fun to put a load of them together and just leave them together for a long time and see what happens. So there she is, giving us a wave. took her a while to settle in, so so she didn't turn around or anything. She just stood like that for ages, but she is now settled in quite nicely. Beautiful animal. The other tarantula that I purchased was another Trinidad Chevron for the princely sum of £25. Yes, I think the only female Trinidad Chevron of this size in the whole show, and I had seen it advertised on Facebook from the seller previously, so I was kind of hoping to find it, and it was completely by accident that I happened to spot it. But as you know, I've got a male again that I recently sexed out who I love, and I had to get a female because I want to breed them, and she is just beautiful. There's already quite an obvious difference. She's much bigger than he is. Well, I say much bigger, a little bit bigger than he is, but her legs are so much thicker in terms of, probably not in terms of actual the legs themselves, but the hairs certainly are thicker. And again, a very calm tarantula, not too bothered about fast movements. I don't show it in this video, but actually during this rehouse, she did end up on my hand, and I had zero issues with that. She was very, very calm. So I think gonna be a species that I can handle, which is going to bring me tremendous joy. Yeah, she's just beautiful. I absolutely love Trinidad Chevrons. I just think they're the best looking species. They've got the wicked orange feet and masses of hair, and they just look great. So the seller told me that she is probably 2 molts off being mature, which would be in line with the growth rate on my male anyway, so I think breeding them won't be a problem. Just have to get a couple of molts out of her. She needs feeding up at the moment for sure, because her abdomen is quite small, but that'll be no problem once she settles in. I'm sure she'll be a cricket eating machine. So this is the final push to get her into this bottle. She was quite reluctant, as you can see. Go on, in you go. I was quite tempted to do what I did when I rehoused the male in the in his rehousing video, and just kind of pick the whole lot up and dump it in the new enclosure, because this was turning into a bit of a faff. But in the end, she did actually climb in. So there she is, nicely in the bottle funnel. And of course, because of her size, she'll fit through the neck of the bottle, so I can just take the lid off and give her a poke, and then she'll be straight into the new enclosure. So there she goes with her amazing orange feet. Even with the paintbrush, I tried to be very gentle, because the last thing I want to do is damage their legs. In you go. That's it. There we go. And we're in. So yeah, not the best picture in the world, but there she is. You can see how big her carapace is compared to her abdomen. She definitely needs to feed up. Now, this last bit is exciting. I was chatting to someone on the Spider Shop bench and saying that I'd seen some Tapinochenius species Caribbean diamond for sale, and they were £15 for a tiny sling. I think they were the first breeding in the UK, so I was really tempted to pick those up just because I've not heard of that species. And the guy from the Spider Shop was saying, well, yeah, they're really nice species, but actually being massively overhyped and possibly overpriced, because in America these things are really cheap to buy and there's loads of them, and not that rare in the hobby. And I was like, okay, so I maybe don't need to spend my money on that. And then I looked down and there was a whole bunch of Tapinochenius cupreus, which is the violet tree spider, and it's a spider that I've seen some cool pictures of on Google Images before and always thought was beautiful. It's got an interesting interesting name actually. So Tapinocunius cupreus. The cupreus bit means copper, so it is basically a copper-coloured spider, but it also has this kind of violet sheen over the top of it. Anyway, the spider shop was selling them at 15 quid for a decent-sized juvenile, spiderling juvenile, and I just thought, I don't know much about this species other than it's arboreal, probably a bit like keeping one of the Carabina or Avicularia species. It's beautiful, it's probably not huge, and I love Salmopius, so I'm going to have to start saying Salmopius. Salmopius. I love Salmopius species, and Tapinocunius is not dissimilar in terms of behaviour. They're sort of quite defensive, very quick, very beautiful. So I thought I'd add something new to the tarantula cave, and that's what I went for. And so I bought 3 just to try and guarantee a pair. Never a guarantee, but at least 3 is sort of the magic number. And here they are. So as I said, they were £15 each. All 3 of them were in these little tubs, which didn't have very much height in them, so I could probably have kept them in there, but not very fair, so I needed rehousing. This one I couldn't rehouse because it molted on me, so one of them is already bigger than the other 2. Given that they're probably the same age, I suspect the other 2 will molt fairly soon. So I was a bit nervous doing the rehouse because, again, there's not a lot of information about this particular species online. There's a few videos on YouTube, but again, not a lot of information and not a lot of scale to sort of see how big they get. So from what I've read, they max out between 4 and 5 inches leg span, and they're very, very fast. So I was surprised when this rehouse went so smoothly and the spider just walked in. The second one was way more stressful, so as you can see, it was just bolting around, making my life difficult. But I think the small enclosure meant that they were quite kind of, they'd webbed them all up, so they were quite happy in their little element, so they weren't too quick to bolt. Anyway, I messed around with this one for ages because it was being a pain, so it just kept wriggling around, staying put, and then bolting around the inside of the bottle funnel. So this is not the most elegant rehouse you're ever going to see. So here it comes again, sneaking around the outside, and then back to the middle, and just refusing to climb upwards. So then I swapped for the paintbrush, in the hope that the paintbrush would help, and it didn't. Back with the stick, give it a shove. By this point the spider had been poked so many times that it was like, no, I'm just going to keep my legs together and not move now. What a faff. Back with the paintbrush. Yeah, so this is the perfect moment for the spider to run up inside the funnel and make my life easy, but instead it just went, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to hold on to all the substrate and webbing and just sit here. So as you can see, I had to just lift the whole thing, substrate and all, with the spider, and prod the whole lot into the funnel really carefully, because the spider was being a bit special. So yeah, if you were expecting some professional rehousing videos, unfortunately I have to disappoint you on this occasion. Right, it's in. This one's actually quite interesting, this particular individual, because the other 2 are fairly dark, and this one's very, very light brown, kind of coppery, much more copper than purple, with a kind of quite distinct black line down its abdomen. You're not going to see many rehousing videos that are this clumsy. I had to basically tip the whole thing into the new enclosure, substrate, webbing, spider and all. So yeah, maybe not the best way to do it, but in this instance it worked fine, and the spider is fine, I assure you. So yeah, that's me taking away all the stuff that was stuck to it. There's just that little bit of wood on its back leg, so I have to sneak in with a a wooden stick and shift that out of the way. And there we have it, my experience of the South East Arachnid Show 2018. My recommendation to all of you, wherever you are, get to the UK next year, go to that show. It was amazing, just eye-opening, and some great people there, amazing spiders, huge bargains to be had, and just really overwhelming in a good way. So just amazing. Do I have any regrets from not buying things at the show? Interesting question. There's a video coming up that might answer that question. But one of the things that I saw at the show on quite a few stands that I wish I'd picked up was Megaphobema mesomelas, which is a Costa Rican species, which is just mind-blowingly beautiful. I didn't pick it up. I still haven't got it. It's on my list for the future, but I thought I'd mention it because it's a cool species and you should check it out. Yes, so exciting video coming up next. Keep your eyes peeled for that, and I will see you in that video. Take care.